Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Pan Litian said, "What does my personal affair with Feng Qinghe have to do with the evil sky pavilion? Are you going to disregard your debt of favor with my master?" Feng Lu asked. He was genuinely worried that Pan Litian would respond in the positive. After all, Pan Litian had joined the Fiend Path. However, Pan Litian was from the Clarity Sect after all. He was once the greatest elite of the sect. It was not in his nature to leave his debts unpaid. When he was saved by the fourth prince, he spent many years at the borders just to repay the life-saving debt. In the end, Pan Litian said, "A junior such as yourself has no right to talk to me. I want to meet Feng Qinghe." "That can be arranged. Old senior, this way please." The two of them traveled southeast through the air. 4 hours later. The night grew even darker. While they were flying, Feng Lu asked, "Old senior, with your identity and standing, you could have easily joined any of the 7 great sections. You'd be an elder, at least. Why must you join the evil sky pavilion?" "Because I like it." Although old villain Ji's cultivation base is terrifyingly profound, he still can't defy the will of the heavens. Moreover, at his age, he can't sever his golden lotus to cultivate, Feng Lu said. Pan Litian glanced at him and asked, "You know about that method as well?" "The method of severing the lotus has spread in the entire cultivation world. Everybody knows about it," Feng Lu replied. Pan Litian sneered and said, "If I were you, I'd live in seclusion and study the method of severing the lotus. When I'm at the 9-leaf stage, nobody will be able to stop me from taking out the evil sky pavilion. Time waits for no man. It takes too long to reach the 9-leaf stage. There are many treasures and cultivation methods in the evil sky pavilion. Almost every sect covets them." It seemed like Feng Lu was finally honest about his intention. At the end of the day, their motivation was the benefits they would gain from taking down the evil sky pavilion. It had nothing to do with being on the noble or fiend paths. If their true goal was to take down Tian Dao, they could have just patiently waited out 10 years. Why were they so insistent on taking down the evil sky pavilion when it would lead to heavy casualties? The quarrels and disputes in the world were fundamentally caused by greed. Feng Lu suddenly stopped flying. As he hovered in the air, he said, "Old senior. Why don't you join Zhensong branch? Our master has said that if you're willing to join us, the seat of the first elder will be yours," Feng Lu said. Pan Litian suddenly found this young man's impudence grating. He said, "Don't you understand what I've said to you?" "I don't." "You will once I meet Feng Qinghe," Pan Litian said. "I'm afraid you won't be meeting my master." Whoosh. 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 100 cultivators suddenly appeared on the treetops. Several of them knocked their bows, and some of them circled the air above their heads. A trap? Pan Litian scowled. He did not expect the Zhensong branch's Feng Lu to resort to such lowly methods. Feng Lu retreated in the air. With a smile, he said, "I had no choice. I wanted to persuade you to return, but since you refuse, you'll be buried here." Pan Litian wielded his wine gourd bottle, and he descended. He was at the center, surrounded by cultivators on all sides. "I thought Feng Qinghe is a man who knew how to differentiate between right and wrong. It seems like I'm wrong." Pan Litian raised the wine gourd bottle in his hand and took huge swigs from it. In just a brief moment, he emptied the wine gourd. His clothes were wet from the wine that spilled from the edges of his mouth. Feng Lu said, "It's useless to talk about morality with those on the fiend path. I've said everything I wanted to say. You're no longer at your peak. If you quietly surrender, you might be left with an intact corpse." Pan Litian tossed the bottle out. The wine gourd turned golden as it circled him. "You're right. I'm heavily injured, and I'm no longer at my peak. Even so, He paused for a moment. His voice deepened as he said in a deafeningly loud voice, "I'm not so weak so as to be pushed around by the likes of you." Boom. Pan Litian stomped his feet on the ground and shot into the air like a fired arrow. He attacked without warning as his wine gourd shone with a blindingly bright golden light. The light grew larger and shrouded him. Boom. 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 A dozen cultivators reeled back as they were hit by the golden gourd bottle. They spat out mouthfuls of blood in the sky. Intoxicated world. How do you like that? Feng Lu shouted, "What a wonderful cultivation base. Shoot him down." Several archers in the distance fired their energy arrows at Pan Litian. Arrows sailed across the sky like meteors toward Pan Litian. Whoosh. 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 Pan Litian tossed his golden gourd bottle out again. He dove. Boom. 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 The wine gourd circled around Pan Litian and parried all the energy arrows. "Continue," Feng Lu ordered. Drunk on the mountain. Pan Litian descended and suddenly shot to the side. He left the range of the energy arrows at lightning speed, and his gourd bottle immediately crashed on two nearby cultivators. Boom. Boom. The two of them were sent flying back. Their 10 Worlds avatar flashed briefly before vanishing. Pan Litian laughed and said, "It's been a long time since I've behaved this freely. If this is all Zhenghai has, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. This is only the beginning." Feng Lu waved his hand. More than 10 cultivators lunged at Pan Litian from all directions. Since he was in the middle, he felt the pressure from all sides. He fought hard to keep the lump in his chest down and to stabilize his old wounds as best he could. Then, he said, "Drunk on the battlefield." Swoosh. Pan Litian suddenly descended like a huge rock. When his feet touched the ground, a loud boom resonated in the air. After he evaded the attacks, he threw his golden gourd bottle out again. Bam. 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 The golden gourd bottle was moving extremely fast and formed a golden circle in the air. A dozen or so cultivators retreated immediately. "He's powerful. Isn't he injured? Why is he so powerful?" As the cultivators retreated, they regarded Pan Litian with a shocked expression. This shows the Fiend Extermination Alliance's plan is right. In any case, he must die. Feng Lu commanded the cultivators again, "Archers, don't stop firing." Whoosh. 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 Feng Lu's voice had barely faded when dozens of energy arrows shot toward Pan Litian. Pan Litian looked at Feng Lu as a burst of energy surged out of his body. Bam. 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 The energy arrows dispersed. Pan Litian flew toward Feng Lu. "Eldest senior brother, stand back." The cultivators in the surroundings joined their palms and formed script seals. The air was suddenly filled with script seals. Pan Litian had no choice but to call off his assault. He descended again and looked up. The Confucian Sect's expansive energy seal? The Confucian Sect's expansive energy seal was a kind of expansive heavenly energy. All they did was condense the energy into seals and shaped them into scripts. It was fundamentally similar to the Taoist talisman seal, although the Taoist seal required more brush strokes. The scripts danced in the skies. They consolidated rhythmically and dove toward Pan Litian. Block. The golden gourd bottle hovered before him and spun rapidly. The script seals kept attacking while the gourd bottle parried them. Bam. 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 The sounds of collision seemed never-ending, and ripples of colliding energies could be seen everywhere. Pan Litian's arms were growing numb from the impact. At this moment, Feng Lu shot toward Pan Litian with a sword in his hand. At the same time, he summoned his six-leaf avatar. Whiz. Expansive energy sword. A great surge of energy wrapped around the sword in Feng Lu's hand, turning it into a shining golden sword. The sword shot toward Pan Litian like a bullet. Pan Litian waved his arm. The gourd bottle rose slightly. He clapped his hands together. Bam! Pan Litian caught the sword between his hands. However, he was pushed backward by the force of the sword. He wrapped his feet in energy as he slid backward, leaving 2 shallow indents. When he finally stopped moving, the energy sword was barely half a foot away from him. His golden gourd bottle still circled him, deflecting the incoming energy arrows. Trying to sneak up on me? You're old, just like old villain G, old. The first elite of the Clarity Sect can't even hold his own against a 6-leaf cultivator like myself. Why do you have to throw your life away for that old villain? You're still too green, child. Pan Litian's palms shone with a golden light before it quickly turned red like molten iron. He held the tip of Feng Lu's sword tightly between his palms. Their primal cheese and energies battled it out and buzzed loudly. The golden gourd bottle continued to parry the incoming energy arrows above their heads as loud crashes rang in their ears. Pan Litian stomped his feet to stabilize himself. He stopped moving backward as primal chi erupted from his body. Bam! Feng Lu was pushed backward by the sudden blast of energy. His sword flew into the air. He somersaulted a few times before he landed on his feet again. At this moment, he looked at Pan Litian fearfully. His arms had gone numb from this exchange, and he felt a pain in his chest as his blood essence roiled in his body. As the saying went, a starving and emaciated camel is still larger than a horse. At the same time, the wine gourd bottle fell into Pan Litian's palm. Whiz! Shining golden energy wrapped around Pan Litian, completely keeping the incoming energy arrows at bay. Since he possessed a heaven-grade weapon, the sword path elites around him did not dare to recklessly make a move. They only circled in the air, looking for an opening. Your cultivation base hasn't recovered yet, and you're heavily wounded. However, you're able to hold for so long. I'm impressed. Feng Lu's gaze was lively. Pan Litian shook his wine gourd bottle. Unfortunately, it was empty. He had no more wine to drink. Boring. It'll get interesting in a moment. Feng Lu waved his arm again. The dozen or so sword path cultivators dove with their swords. Really? Pan Litian hurled his wine gourd bottle out again. The gourd bottle shone even more blindingly than before. Bam! 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 The cultivators were sent flying back. However, the energy arrows did not relent. In any case, you won't be able to last long. Script seals sailed in the air again like fluttering butterflies. The cultivators from Zhenghai branch disciples surrounded Pan Litian on all sides. They kept making hand signs and condensing their cheese. Script seals and energy seals began to cordon off the area around Pan Litian. Script seal formation. Script seals more powerful than the previous ones flew toward Pan Litian. Pan Litian's gourd bottle kept the script seals at bay. It flew at a greater speed. At this moment, he began to cough. Upon seeing this, an expression of joy appeared on the Zhenghai branch disciples' faces. This was their chance. Go! A circle of cultivators advanced with their script seals. Pan Litian shouted, thoroughly drunk. When the script seal descended, the wine gourd bottle suddenly unleashed dozens of energy seals. Every energy seal was shaped like the wine gourd bottle as they shot in all directions. Bam! 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 Wine gourd bottle seals? Feng Lu frowned slightly. He looked at Pan Litian, who was at the center of the pincer attack, with a grave expression. At this moment, Pan Litian vanished from sight. He ricocheted through the surroundings like a flitting phantom. Swoosh! 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 Bam! 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 2 cultivators reeled back. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and died on the spot. The script seals kept flying toward Pan Litian and landed on the wine gourd bottle energy seals. The collision of energies made the air in the surroundings violently turbulent. Pan Litian moved as though he was drunk. He tottered and crashed onto someone or something. A wine-gourd bottle energy seal would attack in coordination. For a time, both sides were engaged in an intense battle. Feng Lu rose into the air and shouted, "Hold him down." He knew Pan Litian had internal injuries. There would be no problem so long as they could hold him down. Bam. 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 The script seals were attacking with a much higher frequency. Feng Lu kept his eyes on the flitting Pan Litian. Avatar. Whiz. 100 Tribulations Insight with 6 leaves appeared in the air. The others summoned their avatars as well. It seemed as though the entire forest was on fire. The instant Feng Lu summoned his avatar, he looked at Pan Litian's moving figure and said, "Now." His sword sailed through the air. With his avatar in tow, he made a beeline for Pan Litian with his sword before him. Pan Litian instantly felt a chill on his back and turned around. "Break!" Feng Lu yelled. Pan Litian instinctively moved his wine-gourd bottle energy seal in front of him. Bam! This time, Pan Litian was sent flying back. However, he did not fly too far back, and the altitude was not too high. He landed on the ground with a thud. The script seals and wine-gourd bottle energy seals vanished. The entire place fell silent. The disciples of the Zhenghai branch looked down from the skies at Pan Litian, who fell on the ground. Feng Lu's attack had successfully landed. Pan Litian lay on the ground as he looked up into the sky. He felt the lump in his chest threatening to escape. He gave a strange, guttural laugh. It was not as if he could not block Feng Lu's attack, his reflexes merely could not keep up. He had sufficient experience, knowledge, and skills to counter it. Alas, he still could not keep up. "Accept your fate, old senior." Feng Lu landed. His sword was in his right hand as he walked toward Pan Litian. Pan Litian chuckled. He supported his weight with his hands and sat up with great difficulty. "To think that Feng Zhenghai taught a disciple like you." Feng Lu did not miss the barb in Pan Litian's words. He raised his hand and sent a hand seal toward Pan Litian. The hand seal landed on Pan Litian. Bam! Pan Litian defended himself by crossing his arms. He slid backward. Feng Lu smiled. "The first elite of the Clarity Sect, Pan Litian? You're nothing." Pan Litian launched into another coughing fit. Blood trickled down the edge of his lips. Someone from the side said, "Eldest senior brother, let's not waste words with him. The branch master has told us to finish this as quickly as possible. There's no need to rush. I've never fought an elite such as him before. He's an 8-leaf cultivator." Feng Lu smiled, clearly feeling pleased with himself. Everyone desired to be respected, to be an elite feared and revered by all. When Feng Lu saw Pan Litian make no attempt to get up, he raised his hand again and launched another hand seal. Bam! Pan Litian slid backward again. "Senior. Please don't hold back. I've always wanted to witness your glorious strength," Feng Lu said mockingly as he launched another hand seal. Bam! Pan Litian flew backward again. Feng Lu continued moving forward in this manner while pushing Pan Litian back with his hand seals. "See? This is the so-called 8-leaf expert." Feng Lu reveled in this feeling of trampling on an expert. Perhaps, Feng Lu was taking too long. One of the disciples called out again, "Eldest senior brother, we can't afford to dally any longer." Feng Lu nodded. His gaze grew colder. At this moment, the Zhenghai branch disciples surrounded Feng Lu in the air. They looked down at Pan Litian who was lying on the ground. Feng Lu said, "Old senior. If you have to blame someone, blame yourself for picking the wrong side." He raised his sword and wrapped his energy around it, causing the sword to vibrate. Pan Litian suddenly launched into another violent coughing fit. His chest rose and fell heavily. This released the lump in his chest as he spat out blood. After that, he laughed as he looked at the Zhenghai branch disciples who were looking down at him. He looked at the starry sky and many glorious scenes from days of old flashed before him. he saw himself as a young man full of mettle. He continued to laugh. His laughter rang deafeningly in the air. All of a sudden, he slammed his palms on the ground. If I could turn back time and become a young man again, I'd wipe those smirks off your faces. All of a sudden, primal chi surged from his Dantian sea of chi and condensed into energy swords that shot in all directions. The energy swords charged toward the cultivators like a storm. This is bad. Retreat. Fenglu's eyes widened as he summoned his avatar and retreated as quickly as he could. The Zhinsong branch disciples retreated as well. Pan Litian's gaze was sharp. He summoned his avatar as his energy swords surrounded him. 8-leaf golden lotus, the 100 tribulations insight. With one hand tightly gripping the golden gourd bottle, his eyes were fixed on the retreating Fenglu.